Lives Matter.
Black 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 Lives Matter.
So we are going to invite to the stage Niina. Let's put our hands together. Brilliant. And I'm going to leave it to you. Thank you.
Thank you, LJ. Wow. Hi, everyone. Well, today my name is Niina, as LJ has said, but I do things a little bit different, and I do have dyslexia, so sometimes when I pose, don't worry, I'm still here, just getting my brains together. So I've got a bit of like a presentation that goes with what I'm going to talk about, because I like visual. I like people to see what I'm talking about, because I just think it's important, because sometimes my mouth will go blah, 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 but at least you'll have it there and you'll have it read. So if we could get the first slide, please. Thank you. And I've got my helpers at the back there. Thank you very much. Voila. So today I'm going to present something that I love doing most of the places. It's called Every Child is Your Child. My company is Mother of Nation for a reason, and I'll get into that. Next slide, please. Okay. Right on top there, you have 3 questions that I tend to ask parents when I do, whether in the groups or individually, is who are children? Are children to be blamed for their wrongdoing? Do parents know why they want children in their lives? And then over there, it's just a little thing where I say these questions will never be answered the same with everyone in the room today. And the reason why I tend to do these things is because we have a way of thinking general. Okay, and it's something that I found is within the community. I'm originally from Democratic Republic of Congo, so the culture is very closed. Okay, and here I am, well, a rebel is what they call me, a girl who has experienced other things that other women and other young people cannot experience. And I'm there talking, which is not something that we're told to do. We don't talk. We keep things in because we keep it in the community. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to keep it in the community. I'm going to talk this, that. So I started this thing, like I said, about 15 years going on now. And 2019 is when I registered my organization, Mother of Nation. I finally had the name because I realized that's what it is. I'm going to be a mother to so many other, in the beginning it was to so many other Congolese, children who are living in the UK and are still going through what I went through. Nothing bad, but just a very closed-minded and, and all the trauma and everything that we've been through. Next slide, please. Okay, this first quote I really love. It says, "We worry about what a child will become tomorrow, yet we forget that he is someone today." This resonated with me and the culture where I'm coming from, because from the moment you're born, it's you are going to be somebody to come and help me. Do you see? So that's always been the mindset to all the Congolese parents. We give birth to children so that tomorrow our children are going to help us. And then I asked a question to some of my aunties, say, okay, so if you give birth when you're 23, that child is not. So by the time the child is, say, 20, you're going to be 43. So you're not going to tell me you're not going to do anything in your life. And you're just going to wait there for 20 years for the child to be 20. And then suddenly you say, okay, because I raised you for 20 years, you are now going to be responsible for me. So it didn't make sense to me. So I had to ask it like that, probably it was my dyslexia thinking. So it just didn't make sense to me, some of the things which was being passed around, words and people that were saying, and I'm like, it just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. So conversation started, things started. I started calling people around, aunties, friends and things, and going to other communities like Nigeria, Ghanaian, and other communities just to see how, the African culture is compared to my African culture. And I actually fell in love with the Nigerian kind of like ways of doing things, because it was quite good. They had the godly element and, everything which we didn't really have in the Congolese side. Anyway, that's a whole different story. But, I just loved how the model of, motherhood was, how the mothers were within the children caring and things and being there and communicating. And I'm like, oh, I kind of like this. So I started learning a lot more with Yoruba and Igbo kind of culture. So I started attending churches run by Yoruba pastors just so that I can, get myself known. So that sort of like helped me, removed me from what I knew. So I sort of like unlearned what I knew to learn something new. And that's where my journey began. So next one. This one I also love. Children need models rather than critics. Now, you're not good enough, Niina. I'm asking you a simple question, you can't even answer it. What kind of a child are you? That is typically Congolese culture. Everything a child does, it's wrong, but forgetting that you're a child. They wash you, you're ready, you're not allowed to go outside and play in the sand. If you go outside and play in the sand and you get dirty, you come home, you get whooped. Why did you get yourself dirty? I'm 4 years old, this is what I do. Okay, I touch this and I touch that and I touch that. This is what I do. It's part of the child development. It's part of so many things which I later discover that's exactly what it is. But unknown to us, that was trauma. We didn't know that, so we grow up with the mindset of being perfect. Like, I have to be perfect in everything, and not realizing that actually it was a trauma reaction to how I was raised. Then I went through a lot of therapy to help me with so many things. I'm a product of therapy, and I started talking about it a lot in my community. Next slide, please. Children learn by what they see, making them great imitators. We need to give them something great to imitate. And this is something that I came up with because as a referral order, and also my self-experience from my parents, having seen my dad being very violent to my mom on so many occasions, and so many wrong things. I took those things as, what can I say, as that's the way life is, okay? Because nobody taught me that that's not how life is. So if you do it, you don't come back to me to say, actually, the way I behave is wrong. I just think that's just the way people are supposed to be behaving. So I entered into, relationship. When I started a relationship, I just started to believe that, yeah, it's okay for a man to hit a woman. It's okay for a man to cheat. It's okay for a man to do so many things because that's what I was so exposed to. And I thought, it's okay. I'm being in relationship what I'm supposed to be. But until I started going to therapy, after being pregnant with my 4th child, that's when I realized that actually, no, what's happening to me is not correct, because I actually have 6 kids from 6 different men. And that's how it all happened, because as far as I'm concerned, what I was doing was actually correct. I was supposed to stay in an abusive relationship, and if they don't like me, they leave. It's okay, it's correct. It's just, who's gonna like me kind of thing. So when I started going to therapy, all of that changed, and I started to see a whole different perspective. I started speaking up for myself. I started standing up for myself. As a woman, I'm not supposed to speak in that culture anyway, because they really look down on women. Even if you are graduate, even if you're very educated, you're nothing in the eyes of a Congolese man. So it was very challenging for me to break through. So I started attending some of the conferences and asking difficult questions. And this is how I became popular in the community in the UK. This is how everybody knew the name Niina Kabesa. Oh gosh, that girl, yeah, that girl. Oh, that one that talks. Oh yeah, that, that's how I'm now referred to. Some people call me crazy. Some people, because I speak my mind. So yeah, next slide, please. So who is children? And remember I said that nobody is gonna answer this the same way, but this is my answer. Children are everything we did want them to be and everything we did not want them to be. And there's a reason why I said that. And the reason why I say that is, when we look at children, in this particular answer, I wasn't looking at children just from the Democratic Republic of Congo or in the UK, but I'm looking at children globally. And when you look at it, there are villages that we probably are not known at the moment. They have kids and they give birth to children. How they train the children is different. How every other individual trains the children is different. But what I find the most fascinating is trauma has the same response. Okay, and this is why I said children are everything that we want them to be and everything that we don't want them to be. So what that's really communicating to a lot of parents is, if your child is doing something that you feel is not good, before you can start attacking the child, look in yourself, why do you think that's not good? Because that's what I faced growing up. I wasn't allowed as a 4-year-old to mess up, to do anything, and for me now, I'm like, when I see my 3-year-old, he walks around and spread things, I laugh, because that's what they're supposed to do at that age, because they're discovering things. And I feel like my childhood was taken away from me, and I find myself now older trying to, okay, where I am, because later on when I did psychology and I did a bit of a touch of child psychology, I realized that there is a development, ways that, we have to develop properly as children. If we don't, we get a deficit as we get older. And I think this is where, my life was a little bit. So that's why I'm so passionate. That's why we talk about children. That's why we talk about parenting, because I feel as though that as African, child, my parents did raise me well, educatively and everything. I'm grateful. But I feel there were some parts which was lacking. And that's what I'm just coming into, trying to fill in the part, and that's the psychological part of it. That's the other part of, like, you're telling me not to lie, but then at the same time you're asking me to tell the person that's knocking on the door that I'm not here. That's lying, you see. So these are the little things that I started to point out. So I just told my parents, you should have modeled to me how a human being could be. So what you modeled to me and what you are teaching me were two different things, and it confuses me as a child. But then I have to discover it when I get older that, okay, I have to remove this. This is what I have to be. Next slide, please. So who am I? Well, this is the part that I really want to get into. My story starts from the age of 7 when I was gang raped in Congo, okay? And being 7 and not knowing exactly what happened, I couldn't tell my parents, I couldn't tell no one anything, because myself, I didn't know what had happened to me. And then suddenly there was a place where I had to move from the country and then come to the UK at a very younger age. Again, all of that wasn't told to me. So as a vibrant child as I was, I went down because I felt within me that something had happened, but I couldn't tell my parents, because how would I go? And the worst incident was 2 days after the incident, I wet the bed. And it's something that I don't do. But you would expect your parents to look, something is not right. You don't do this. So what's going on? What's going on? I got stripped down naked, taken outside, and walked in front of my friends. That was another way of embarrassing you, so that you don't get to repeat what you've done again. And all of that was trauma to me. So I was screaming, like that still stayed in my mind. And when I started going therapy in the UK, and how I discovered that what happened to me was rape, it was actually when I was here, I was 16 in college, and people were talking, my friends. And then they said something, this, and I'm like, huh? So it hit, and I'm like, oh. So I spoke to somebody, say, oh, when I was young, I remember this happened to me. And they asked me, well, what do you, so I recorded, and I told them what I recorded. Goes, oh, that's rape. And I'm like, oh. So at that time, not knowing what happened was that, it's like I just went into a very darker space. So it's like my life changed. It was a long time, about 10, 15 years. I just wasn't myself. I became tomboy, because in my head now I'm thinking I need to be like a boy, so that way boys will not come closer to me, boys cannot hurt me. And I'm not trying to fight this internal battle by myself. Friends, I couldn't approach a family because family wouldn't understand. So going through therapy did help me, but it did not help me in a very long time, because we were really going through it step by step, because therapy was like new to me. Sometime when I go to the therapy and in 3 sessions in, I stopped, because it was getting too much for me, because I still had to face my parents, so it was getting like that. So I wasn't a wild child, but I was wild child. I don't know if that's making any sense. I wasn't wild as in drugs or anything like that, boys, but I was going out a lot, drinking a lot, because that made me feel good. That was my response to it. And then on my 4th pregnancy, that's when obviously somebody said, oh, you should come to church and everything else. So I thought, okay, let me seek spiritual assistance and see how this is going to happen. So I went into the church, and I think that's when everything sort of like turned around for me. So I became like, okay, because for me, the element of church is having a personal relationship with God. And I think that's what I needed at the time. So I needed just somebody that I don't see, but speaking did help me. So I read the Bible, I started building the relationship, my spiritual relationship. I remember I spent like 7 years just trying to find who I was and everything. My mom, my aunties, everybody was like, what's wrong with this girl? She's wasting her youth. Oh my God, you don't want to date. And I said, I don't want to have anything. So as far as I'm concerned, so I started doing online courses just to stop them harassing me, because there's this thing about when you're at a certain age and you're not married, it's like as if marriage is heaven, but it's not. But you know, it's just how it was for me. It was so much pressure. You need. And I'm like, but I'm studying, I'm doing this. Yeah, but you know, study, you can still have a husband. Even though I already had 4 kids already, but they were still pushing me to get married. So I kept going. So I thought, okay, let me just please them. And I found myself ending with a wrong Congolese man who double did the act again, raped me at an older age. So that was my second rape when I was older. I told him no, but he still forced himself to me. So, and then again, I thought to myself, who's going to believe me? I'm married to this guy. You know, you're his wife. It's not rape, you know. But I later on realized that actually it was rape, but we weren't together anymore and we didn't have children, thank God for that. So I had to let that go. So I had to see the family, then I had to tell them what happened, and I told them, you have to let me live my life. You see, so I make my choices how I want to make my choices. So that's where I sort of like, I can say that I became bold and I became searching for who this girl is. Okay, I know that I'm a female, but who is this female? So I entered 2 other relationships which did not work out, but left me with 2 children. So that's how I got my 6 children. Nevertheless, I'm still here on the journey because my eldest daughter is 21, my youngest is 3. So I'm still in the journey, and then I realized that, you know what? There's more to me than just having to be in a relationship. So I started this self-love, you know, walk with myself, and I sat my kids down and I had to undo the things that they've known about the moms. I had to let them know, look, my life like this, wrong. This. So I had to get that image out of them. Basically, everything that I wanted my parents to do, I started doing to my children. And eventually, everything started going okay. I'm actually grateful because my kids are very good kids, you know, and I'm happy. So I started helping in the community more with police, prison work, everything else. I've written books and books and books and books. There's one book, A Woman Like Me, which is another edition coming. This is one of my latest, and I mentioned about my rape and everything in here as well, and how it was. And there's like 3 series of Walking with God as a single mom. That then takes you to the time when I was pregnant and things. And there's my identity. I think this was birth as well when I started doing the Christianity. There's more other books that I've written on life coach, because I'm now an accredited life coach, on my way to becoming a therapist as well. And that's the side of me. And then my art, which is something which was created and birthed in Congo anyway. I used to sing and dance and write poems and everything, you know, in Congo. So here I got given the opportunity to do the same. So I've got a few albums, few songs out there, and I do music therapy to holiday schools. And yeah, so these are the kind of things that's basically who I am a bit. So I talk a lot. And I'm not blunt, but I'm honest. Basically, that's how I like to see. Because most people say that you're just blah, blah. No, I'm actually being honest. And my honesty sticks with the fact that everybody is individual. I've realized as human, we're not patient enough. We've already have a mindset fixed on how we see life. And how I see life and how another person sees life is 2 different things. So when we're having conversation, instead of saying I disagree with you, just say that's a very new perspective that I've never heard before. And I'm gonna reflect on that. It's much better, because what you have to understand, somebody else's truth isn't yours, and you're not right to taking it away from them. And these are the things that now I'm researching and I'm working on towards discovering maybe the biggest question, who is human? I don't know, but that's where I'm going at the moment. Next slide, please. This is just me when I received my 2nd award with the Women for Africa as an Outstanding Mother of the Year. Next slide, please. Okay, these are the 2 questions now I sort of like put out there. Are children to be blamed for the wrongdoing? The reason why I asked that question is because working with the young offenders order panels, we constantly keep getting children coming through. And when kids come through in my panel setting, one thing I realized, the parents also have to come with them. And what breaks my heart, and there has been time when I had to tell the parents to shush, let the child talk, because they know that they're only there as parents. But when we're asking questions to the children. We want the children to respond. And a lot of parents are very negative to the children who are very not well behaved. And I look at it as, if your child is not well behaved, before you can blame the government, before you can blame the teachers or racism or whatever else, how did you bring them up in that house? Because they came from your home to school. And that's always been my question. So for this question, I always say, I never blame any child. Even if they've killed somebody and they say this child is a bad child, I say, well, actually, no, it's the parenting that led the child to become how the child has become. Even if you say, well, we tried, it came from a very good home. Good home, what is a good home? Just because you are financially able, it doesn't mean that you're raising the child properly. You may have everything, but you lack being present where your children are. And this is the things that we see. Yeah, well, I pay for this and I pay for that. They never lack any clothing. But sometimes kids like conversation. Do you have conversation with your children? Have you sat your child down when they came in from school and smashed the door, dropped the bag? Did you say, oi, oi, come here. What's wrong? What's going on? Or you just let them storm in the room to the iPad because you are providing everything for them. These are the little things that I say that everything is individual. So for me, whether they came from a well home or a single parenting home or whatever home, every child problem out there begins at home. And as I'm saying it myself, I'm a mom, I have children and they've gone through things and it began at home. So because I know that it begins at home, I started to address it before it can escalate. I had to be tough. I had to bring in the discipline. I had to do everything else. And then eventually the child understood. But if I just quickly say, you guys are being racist and no, it doesn't always work like that. When somebody reports to you that your child is acting up, before you can call out the race card or anything else you want to call out, sit your child down and talk to your child. I always have the theory say, well, I believe everything that my children said. And even if my child said, oh, yeah, but you know, that teacher, and it could be the case, the teacher is really, really racist. But then you tell your child, okay, this is what we're going to do. Do that, do this, do that. You just cooperate, and I will take it to the next level. And if you're cooperating, and they still carry on, we'll escalate it to the head teacher. This is how you do it, okay? And that helps your children, because tomorrow, I always say, they're going to become the adults. But which kind of adult they're going to be out there? The ones that hurt people or the one that gives solution to people? It's down to you. It begins at home. That's me. Okay, that's the first question. Are children to be blamed for the wrong they do? No, children should never be blamed for the wrong they do. That's what I do, the work that I do, because I don't blame children. That's just me. The second one is, do parents know why they want children in their life? This question, again, everybody's going to answer it differently. Why I ask this question, because from my culture, once you get married, the next thing is having children. But why do you want to have children? When you don't have money, you don't know how you're going to finance to do it, but you just said because that's just the next thing to do. Again, it's something to bring people into asking themselves, why do you want to have that child? What is the purpose of having that child? Are you going to take care of that child? Is that child going to be a good person in public? Do you know where your life is going for you to then bring in that child in? Are you in a position to have the child? So it's something that asks to get the conversation going. And when people tell me, but look at you, you have 6 kids from 6 different men, and I say, but they're all very educated because I know where I'm going. So the moment I make the decision to have them, I know that they are an extension to my destiny. They are an extension of where I'm going. So from a very younger age, I'm already tailing them, grooming them, pushing them to be in a position that when they're adult, they're going to help me to where I'm going. Example, if I'm going to be the president of a nation tomorrow, my children are going to be trained from a very younger age how to walk with the president. They're not going to be trained how to just be walking anyhow. That's how it is. So if you know as a parent what it is that you want, it's easier when you have children, because then the children have something to follow. It's like I keep telling people, I'm a musician, everything I do, all my children, I didn't plan it, but what I'm saying is so true. My first one, she's a singer, she's an artist. My second one, she's doing psychology, because they're all following the same. You know, my 14-year-old boy, he's like a counselor at the school, 4 years running. They all want to be life. They all want to do what I do. And it's not something that I say that it's planned, but it's what I've been exposing to them, it's what I've been feeding them, it's what I've been pushing in them. So that's how it is. So this is why we really should be thinking, why do you want your children in your life? What are they actually going to do? When they go out there, can people say, oh, that's really Nina's child? Or are they going to say, oh, that child, I don't know, the kind of parents they have. We need to think about these things. It's very, very important. Because I've been through phases where I decided, okay, I've had 4 kids, no more kids. And then I had like the 7-year gap. Then I had 2 more children like it. So we can't just be pop, but we need to know why are we giving birth. It's very important. So those are what I can see. And then the last slide, please. How do we make every child our child? Basically, it's like everything I'm just saying. What you do for your children or other children, you've automatically done to all. So raising your children to be good role model out there, in a way, it's already helping other children. Because you see, your children are going to have friends. Yeah? So what you teach them, they're going to teach their friends. Just like we get other friends teaching our children things which are not supposed to be a problem. If your child is well brought up, when that person is saying, we'll be like, oh, no, my mom this and my parents. Do you see what I mean? So this is how you make every child your child. Start with your own. Build them up to be really positive role model. Like my son, my 14-year-old, I am so proud of him. Because the moment you enter school, it's like, oh, that's Emmanuel's mom. I'm like, okay. That's something good. And for a black boy, for me, I'm really proud because in my area where I live, a lot of black kids are doing a lot of crimes, and I get a lot of black kids coming into the panel, and it breaks my heart when I see that, you see. And this is why my company is Mother of Nature, because I just feel like I want to be the mother, because most of these kids, sometimes all they need is just an ear, and sometimes just somebody that will listen without judgment, and somebody that will just say, you're going to be okay. You know, that's just all they need, that love, that unconditional, you know, regards to them all the time. They don't need people to keep saying, well, you're bad, you never listen, that's not really helping a child at the time. So this is how we make every child our child, by our own children, because they will then become the model to the peers. And then eventually everything will flow. And all those peers will start having a concept, a way of life that you've taught your children, and that's how it goes forward. Next slide, please. And this is just a conclusion. There is power in the words that we speak. That a life can begin with as little as a single phrase, an uplifting word, or an act of kindness. We have the power to alter and impact the lives of any child if we become more intentional about the words of encouraging we use to them. Our words are often the very thing that helps create their future dreams. And sometimes those dreams are to be just like us. Now my question to you is, how are you? Can your children say you are the role model? That's something you need to. If your kids can, then you're doing an amazing job. And even if they can't, you're still probably doing an amazing job. It's just a lack of communication. You just need to start talking and seeing where it is. You know, all my kids, when they go to school, I hear from the teachers, when they tell them, who do you want to be like? Oh, my mom. But they'll be like, why? Oh, she works at the police, she works at the courts, she does this, she does all this. It's very important that what you do, you communicate it to the children, you tell them, why are you doing it? So they know that, oh, that one, she doesn't just love us, she loves other people's children as well. Blah, 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 blah. And that's me today. So I'm very open for questioning now. Thank you.
I just wanted to say something. I used to work in education in SEN, and we had a bit of training, and it basically said it actually just takes one person to make an impact in a child's life.
Yeah.
And I'd see many children with behavioural issues that were often linked to ADHD or trauma. And knowing that just being the one person, that it just takes one to see that child, you know, to actually make real change. And it's like, we can all be that one person
We can.
to a child, and I think it's really important. And certainly, it's to have inspirational people in your life and to see those people around you?
The
It's
choice,
really-
I always tell people, the choice of being kind and doing good is always is there. But the challenge is a lot of people, adults, if I may say, are struggling with trauma, child trauma, that they've never dealt with. You know, I always say that children don't trigger me. In fact, if I'm around with children who's making noise, I love it. It's like I'm there, I can still find myself communicating, I can still find myself thinking, because I don't have an inner child trauma anymore, because I've gone through and I've dealt with it. But so what you find is that a lot of adults are triggered by children, and those are usually the signs that tells you that, okay, there's something in you, you need to work on it. You know, why is it that a child shouting boo will make you feel frustrated? Stop making a noise. Why? That's what children do. You know, that's what I find. So the choice is there, but just sometimes people don't always see it.
Well, certainly, I think, certainly in white culture, there's a Victorian term called children should be seen and not heard. And my mother used to say this to me a lot, which is ironic because I have ADHD and I like to talk. So, and I think there is that part of like this part of like, no, children should be seen and heard.
They should be seen and heard.
And to be able to play, like you say, and
Should be able to be children.
Yeah,
It's I think for me, from the culture where I come from, is there's a lot of people, like, we are forced to grow up quick, and there's a disadvantage to that, because you grow up so quick that you miss the steps that's very important in a child's development, that when you become to be older, then you're struggling with your thinking or making decision because of that particular step that you missed, you know. And some of us at the age of 6 already, we can be left alone with children or pushed to do certain things, and then they forget. And then the thing about UK or any place which is not in Africa is we have an understanding of different needs, which Africa doesn't have. Like, my dyslexia wasn't discovered until I got here. In Africa, we were just being pushed, beaten if you get something wrong, but not understanding that I take longer. It's like, even being here, I had to literally do this 3 days before. I repeatedly rehearse. So as I'm speaking and I'm answering questions, this opening for question, but it's already sort of like embedded in me because I've done it so many times. But these are the things that I learned while I was here. So it would have been lovely if it could have been done there. But then there's the trauma in all the things, thinking that you're stupid, but you're not stupid. Yeah.
You talk about your time before England. Do you think, or maybe I mean, might have some context. Do you think that's changing now? Do you think there's movements for more awareness? Or
There is a
people
movement.
Going back, people who've been somewhere else and picked up skills and understanding, and taking those back
Yes.
home and saying, look, let's do this way, or re-evaluate stuff, creating it.
There is a lady, actually a Congolese lady. She lives in Richmond. Her name is Sandra Wallo. She and I had a conversation about 3 years ago, because she's dyslexic, and she wanted to do that, and she actually has got a dyslexic school now in Congo. And what that does now, she's really raised awareness that these people aren't stupid, that this is what they need. So she's getting quite a lot of help with the government now. So I do help her sometimes with some resources and things. So yeah, that is the only movement that I know at the moment for dyslexia in Congo.
But generally, do you think things like that, as that's an example, that there are other, links with people thinking, this is a thing that happens and change, and taking that back to communities?
There is other leaders in the UK, Congolese leaders in the UK, people like who been there here, studied, learned, who are slowly pushing things. There's some going through books and things. A lot of people are now talking in my generation. They're all talking, so slowly getting it. But the only challenge is, because at the moment in Congo, there isn't really that much of security as such, that we can't really do certain things unless, we're properly support with the government. Otherwise, there's still some, unsecure political issues that.
Along with that kind of community level, there's an element of a kind of political level.
It is a political issue, yeah.
Status.
Yeah, because we're women as well. There's that as well. There's that element of us being women, and they see us as nothing. Yeah.
There's a really long history of like very bad colonialism in the Congo, isn't which has left its like awful residue.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of decolonising, unpicking all that stuff that's attached to that
Yep.
as well.
It's gonna take maybe another decade, but we're gonna get there because we're doing it now, and we are aware that we may not see the change. However, just starting it helps a lot because it's how they view women for us. It's what, it's like women can't teach, women can't give you guys something. The moment you open your mouth and you're talking something, you see them like, because you're a woman.
Can't lift heavy things apparently. So me and Atlanta were downstairs moving something yesterday, and it's an African gentleman who's very lovely. He's on the door and he's like, "Oh, you are brave. You should be doing this as women." And I'm thinking,
we're still seen as people to be in the kitchen, to having children, and catering to your husband. So whatever idea you have, you pass it on to your husband. He's the one that's going to be in the front.
I think that's like that throughout the world. So
It's really
it is, but it seems to be.
Why every successful man is
Yeah.
an intelligent woman.
And maybe we need to change that. Maybe we need to say something like, in front of every successful man is a strong woman. Maybe I don't know, because it's early days, but we're still
in front
pushing.
of every successful woman starts a
Could be that too. That could also be. So slowly but slowly, yeah.
What you were saying, I mean, this the layers and layers of the kind of legacy.
Yeah, to remove. Yeah.
And it still happens with the
But
mining.
things like that, children. I mean, this is a very Caribbean thing as well, and it's known for that. The whole thing about the not being dirty, the appearing to be perfectly dressed, and Christian dressed, and everything nice and cute. That's an important part of maintaining that, because then you look less like the enslaved, and you're keeping yourself nice and presentable and doing all the right things. So that should,
That can still be there, but at the same time we need to keep the balance, because I work with children, and when we do sometime, like we call it messy time, we need to allow some messy time, because messy time for me is like a learning curve for children. Feeling of the sand, feeling of everything, they need to have some sand going through the eyes so they know that you hurt, so that they will not do it next time. So this is the kind of things I argue. It's like, how are you gonna know something is bad if you don't really just touch it and know?
That's my point. That as culturally, African culturally, being messy, getting dirty in the sand's fine. So that's what people do. That's the way it is. It's a colonial layer.
That's what it is. It's the mindset. Yeah.
Which has now made it.
It's a bad thing.
To be okay, keep things together. We must keep us, don't get dirty. That's where that came from. It's almost like taking off this layer.
Yeah, they need to unlearn to relearn. I think that's one of the phrases I always use. Unlearn to relearn again. When the 52-year-old, who's gonna want to unlearn everything they've learned in 52 years? And it's like, it's just sending them to the unknown. And a lot of people fear the unknown. And yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Let's have these conversations.
Black Lives Matter.
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 Black Lives Matter.